And there's still one more game left in week 17. Buffalo, Cincinnati, showdown of the year on Monday night. Could be the game of the year based on what's at stake. Buffalo still playing for the 1 seed. Cincinnati, one of the hottest teams, folks. They've won 20 of 23 against the spread. They've been phenomenal covering. If you've rallied behind these Bengals, while it hasn't been quite comfortable in the ways they've done it the last couple of weeks, they've gotten there. Okay, Bills are road favorites, Brandon, -1.5. Totals at 49.5. And we've also got the conversation, we'll get into this, maybe a futures angle as well based on this game because of its importance and because we're talking 2 of the best 3 teams in the AFC. How do you pick this one apart?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a very exciting game. Like, this is a clear your Monday night schedule out. Make sure that you've got plans ready. I think it actually even is a later time because we got the Rose Bowl earlier. So I think it starts just like 15 minutes later than usual. So it's going to be a good one. I don't really love a side in this game. If I had to pick one, I would lean Bills just because we've talked about Bengals injuries that are starting to pile up. Lyle Collins, Chidobe Awuzie, the cornerback, both edge rushers are injured. I just feel like Buffalo's a little healthier, a little bit better on defense and special teams. But if I was going to pick something, a side or total in this game, I'd go with the under 49.5. Some trends that fit there. Home underdogs this year, unders have hit 65%. We know about the primetime unders trend. That's continued to go well. Both of these teams are 10-5 to the under this season. And then Josh Allen road under is 63% lifetime. So I like the under. Gilles, I think you have the side here on Buffalo, right?
Yeah, so I do like Buffalo to win this game outright. I think they are the better team, but I am also going to be betting some touchdown scorer props. And when I do the touchdown show with Dr. Nick Giffen, who co-hosts with me every Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, shameless plug, we talk about a lot of the matchups and just where there are weaknesses on teams. And right now, the Bengals wide receivers are the players that you want to bet in this game. Specifically T. Higgins at +175 at FanDuel, also Tyler Boyd at both at +350, mainly because of the secondary of the Bills. It's actually been one of their weaker points this year. 15 touchdowns to wide receivers this season compared to just 6 last year. And I know a lot of people will be like, well, what about Jamar Chase? And I'm not saying that you can't bet Jamar Chase, but his presence doesn't necessarily overshadow Higgins and Boyd because they've combined for 12 touchdowns this year, and 10 of them have been in games with Jamar Chase in the lineup. And on the Bills side, I got to go with Dawson Knox at +225. Like, he has scored touchdowns in 3 straight games. They're still pricing him over +200. And for anybody who follows me on Twitter, that's like an auto bet clause for me when he's over +200, mainly because in 8 games this year, he's been over +200 and he's scored 5 touchdowns in those games. All of his touchdowns have been scored when they underprice him at the +200 or more. And for me, I think the Bengals defense are going to be so busy, especially with the way that their zone defense is. They don't allow a lot of big plays. They're going to have their hands full trying to stop Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, that I think Dawson Knox will just have more opportunities over the middle to be able to score on them.
Just to take folks behind the curtain for just a hot second, I read Brandon Anderson's note that he wanted to talk about Josh Allen's rushing total in this game, and it read Brandon Allen rushing yards over, but he's talking about not Brandon Allen, the backup quarterback for the Bengals. It's Brandon talking about Josh Allen's rushing yard. And Brandon Allen is still on the Bengals. Like, I had to double check that. I'm like, Brandon Allen's still in the NFL.
Yeah, let me jump in on the Josh Allen rushing over there. It's funny. I wrote that note myself, and I looked back and I was like, Brandon Allen? What? No, yeah, right. Josh Allen. Yeah, my favorite bet from this game is Josh Allen rushing yards overs. So this is Gilles, you talked about auto bet. For me, Josh Allen rushing yards over is the auto bet. Anytime that you're playing a playoff opponent for the Bills, you can just watch, and the entire way they use Josh Allen changes. When it's a team that they know they can beat, they kind of hold back. They save his legs. When it's a big game, you get those extra designed runs, a little bit more scrambling. And here are the stats. The last 2 years, if you separate 17 games against non-playoff teams, 5.7 rushes for 37 yards a game, 17 games against playoff teams, projecting a little bit from this year, 9.4 rushes for 60 yards a game. So it's a clear difference there. An extra 3.5, almost 4 rushes a game, 60 yards. So FanDuel right now, over 47.5 is the line for rushing yards. Love that. He's at 44 yards or more rushing in 13 of those 17 games against the playoff opponents. By the way, the Bengals are bottom 5 against design quarterback runs as well. If you check my article, I talked about doing like the Josh Allen escalator as well. 60 plus yards. He's done that half of the time, 8 of 17. That's plus 182. 70 plus yards. He's done that 5 times this year, all against playoff teams, presumably. That's plus 310. I've got all 3 in the app. I recommend you play them all. Let's get some Josh Allen runs on Monday night.
I'm glad you went there because FanDuel has that up, and I wasn't sure you were going there, but you did. So I'm glad you mentioned those.
And I was also just going to point out that that's not just exclusive to playoffs. He's actually done that in 14 of the last 20 games overall, including the playoff games last year. And there's a reason why you bet this, especially when it's under the 50-yard plateau, because he's 3rd in the league in rush yards per attempt. Like it's at 6.5 yards per attempt. When he goes at least 8 to 10 times, he's going to clear that number fairly easily because he's just so hard to tackle.